Bona tarda, molt bona tarda a tots. Estem encantats d'estar aquí, jo especialment perquè estic a casa, avui no he hagut d'agafar cap avió, per sort. Jo soc l'Àurea Rodríguez i he tingut la sort que la Mercè em va trucar i em va dir Àurea, vine a moderar aquest panel. El panel es diu IA, que segur que cap de vosaltres ha sentit a parlar d'això. I will try to change the language to English in order to be more comfortable with all of us. Okay. My name is Àurea Rodríguez. I'm the interim director of the IIT Culture and Creativity here at Southwest, that is Spain, Portugal, and the south of France. But I'm here because I'm the author of a book entitled in English, Better Than Without AI. So as the title says, I am a support of the AI as a tool for education and other things, okay? So I'm here to present and moderate this panel with these impressive people. So I'm really proud to be here with all of them, and I'm sure that the dialogue will be fruitful for all of us. So I'm here with Axel Rivas, which is the Dean of the Faculty of Education of the Universidad San Andrés, Argentina. Okay. Beside Axel is Svitlana, Volkova, yeah, right? That's right. Chief Computational Scientist of the Office of Science and Technology of Aptima. Aptima is a company, so you will explain what you do and what you are looking for. Besides Svitlana is Albert Forn, director of mSchools from the GSMA, and Carla Sierra, which is the director of Artificial Intelligence Research Institute from the CSIC, and president of the European Association for Artificial Intelligence. Okay. So that's impressive. So people that knows a little bit, or more than a little bit, of AI. So first of all, I would like that you explain a little bit what is your institution, what do you do, and why you are here. So why you are in a panel of AI in an educational forum, which is trying to look for the challenges that we are facing with AI. So.
Muchas gracias, un placer estar aquí. Muchas gracias también al equipo organizador de este foro que tengo el gusto de visitar por segunda vez después de aquella primera versión 2014. Y trabajo en una universidad, con lo cual mi rol es más como investigador. Hace muchos años que trato de encontrar soluciones en el mundo de la educación y eso me ha llevado a distintos lugares. Un poco desde el anclaje de las políticas educativas, de pensar la justicia educativa desde adentro y afuera de las aulas, a nivel sistémico. Y yo creo que inevitablemente todos los que buscamos soluciones nos hemos encontrado con el campo tecnológico. Algunos nos sumergimos más, otros menos. En mi caso todo lo posible porque creo que hay enormes posibilidades, enormes riesgos. Pero la investigación, en mi caso, está muy dedicada a tratar de encontrar soluciones para la mejora educativa.
So you are in the best forum.
Yes.
Okay. Svitlana.
Hi, my name is Dr. Svitlana Volkova, and I'm a chief AI scientist at Aptima. Aptima is a small business that has been around for more than 30 years, helping the US government to train military personnel and help with preparedness and readiness. And my role within the Office of Science and Technology is implement different type of innovation, these days including AI, to assist. And besides that, I have a PhD in computer science, and we have been developing in general a variety of AI technologies, and recently generative AI and large-scale language models for science and security applications to assist the decision makers with tasks like processing large amounts of data and getting insights from the data. And this data is usually, as you know, very noisy, multimodal, and how to take advantage of this data and make sure that we are assisting and augmenting the decision makers and the end users and help with this technology. And recently I've been really looking into how to leverage AI to assist with education, and specifically generative AI models, and that's why I'm here, and then I'm happy to be here.
That's perfect.
Now it's my turn, and I'm not a doctor, and I'm not working in an AI company, which is very impressive. So my name is Albert Forn. I work at GSMA. GSMA, you may know us because we organize a small event in Barcelona called used to be called the Mobile World Congress, and this is done once a year. It's now no longer called Mobile World Congress, it's called MWC, because it is no longer a congress around mobile technologies exclusively. It's more a congress around connectivity, and goes back to what GSMA is trying to achieve, which is basically how connectivity can impact humanity in a positive and good way with good outcomes. So this is sort of our remit, really, and what we try to do from the perspective of an organization. We also have some technical areas in that we try to support different companies that want to use connectivity to be able to interoperate and technically use different networks to achieve better services. And this is very important because many of the enablers that you need for AI or other technologies to work go down to the basic connectivity that is needed to be able to tap into this great human collective that we call the internet and many other areas. So this is something that we have a very strong opinion on, in the sense that we try to make it so that technology can support connectivity and connectivity can support humanity in a way that makes sense. And I'll leave it here for now.
Carles.
Okay, so first of all, thanks for inviting me here. I mean, I'm always excited to be surrounded by people devoted to education. I think this is a great collective of people. So I come from it's a research institute on artificial intelligence. It belongs to the Spanish National Research Council, which is an organization that has around 120 research institutes all over the country, with above 15,000 people working in the institution. It covers all areas of knowledge, you name it, from archaeology to astrophysics, to particles, to biology, anything. And because of that, we are very excited about the use of artificial intelligence, because, as you know, artificial intelligence can be applied absolutely to anything you can imagine. So the organization itself has created an internal organization called AI Hub that has more than 400 researchers that are developing AI and using AI in their different fields. And I think this is a very strong collective. We organize a number of things. Among them, there is a summer school this year in Valencia, first week of July. So if you want to spend a very nice week learning about AI from experts, but also from many teachers, because there are two tracks, one on science and one on education. I mean, keep an eye on the summer school and join us. Why am I here? I have no idea, but the thing is, in my institute, education and health have been the two pillars where we have been applying AI for decades already now. My institute has roots in 1985. So for many of you, spoiler, AI didn't start 2 years ago, okay? So it has a much longer career. And for those interested in history, we have a philosopher here called Ramon Llull, who in the 13th century designed a reasoning machine. So if you're interested, look for that information on the web. You will find very interesting connection from the Middle Ages. Anyway, so I have been working mostly, I would say, in collaborative learning, so the study of diversity in teams, and basically applying AI techniques to build up teams that are diverse and studying the consequences of that. So I guess that's why
I'm a fan right now.
Okay.
Okay, so I will ask you some questions, but the thing is that to try to debate, not only to ask everybody the same question, okay? So go on, and feel free to interrupt and to ask between you. But the first question, I think that is the core of this debate, that it's how do you think that will AI impact in our education? So start you.
Impact.
Impact, yeah.
Well, I think you should ask the people here. I think the impact happened, it was like a tsunami, I think, a couple of years ago for people in education, because they started to put themselves questions. They got very scared. What will happen? What will be the role of a teacher in the classroom?
Yeah.
when all these tools will be available. I think it's similar to the introduction of any other disruptive technology, like the digital, the email, so many things like that. So I think the impact will be significant. It will be significant in a good sense. I think for students, they will see for the first time since the 60s, where the intelligent tutoring systems started to be studied and doing research on top of them. For the first time, they will witness companions, I would say, with which they can interact in a very, very flexible way. It's not a book with printed and that you have to. No, you will interact in a completely different way using voice. And you will be able to ask that entity to explain you things in different ways. You will ask this entity to put problems to you so that you can solve them, and then the entity will correct them. So there are so many things that a student will probably be able to do with this language computer, because in a sense, what we are witnessing recently is a language computing device, something that can work really well with language. So I think the impact will be very important. It will be very important for teachers as well. At the beginning, teachers were very scared. There were countries like Italy that prohibited large language models for a period. In the States, there were a few states that also, they decided to kind of stop it. There was a letter motivated by people in the States that many other people, including me, signed about a moratorium of the development of the tool. So there is a significant impact. And the impact, as I said, will be on the students, will be on the teachers, and will be also on the policymakers. So for the first time, the policymakers will be able to analyze much better the data that these systems will collect. We can talk about data later because it's an important thing. So for me, the adaptive education, the reality of adaptive education is something that will change the way we educate children from now on. Very important impact.
Axel, tú, como Degà,
Bueno, perdón si hablo en español, no sé si quieren que cambie a
preocupes.
inglés, pero
We can translate a little bit if you want it. And
if you want, I can speak in English as much as I can. I think that there are many ways in which the new avenues of technology will transform education. And I think that we have a big challenge ahead of us in terms of the pedagogy of the technological solutions. In some sense, I began to reread old texts when the large language models appeared as a revolution last year. And I was going back to a very well-known text from Scardamaglia and Beretiere. I don't know if some of the audience know them, two great researchers from the US, and they have Canada, sorry. Thank you for the correction. The key text was a research on the way students do narratives in schools. And they found two main ways in which they construct knowledge through language in narrative way. One is to tell knowledge, and the other one is to transform knowledge. And they found the mechanisms to do those ways of managing language. And in a way, the discussion that they were trying to put in front of us was that most of the students in most of the schools, in most of the countries, learn to tell knowledge, learn to repeat formulas in which they learn something, but they mainly get to pass year after year and get grades, and teachers correct them, and the whole system flows, and they are good students. And that doesn't really mean that they can access knowledge in a way that transforms them and transforms their lives and society. So that's a question that has not been solved by the educational system. And in a way, a large language model works like a student that doesn't really know what it's doing. It learns a code, it can repeat, it doesn't have awareness, a purpose. So we need to use these new tools to re-emerge the pedagogical conversation, the deep pedagogical conversation. How are we going to make sense of what students have to learn? If they don't make sense of what they are learning, they will cheat with these new tools because they don't know why are they doing these exercises. They are telling the knowledge. They are not being transformed by the knowledge. So until we can go deeper into a level in which they know that what they are doing is changing their future, they will artificially learn. So we need to get them to be conscious learners and not artificial learners, in a way. Sorry for my English, it's not the best, but that's the idea.
That's a really good concept, conscious. Yeah. How do you think we can change these educational systems, Svitlana?
So I just want to maybe follow up a little bit on the purpose of LLMs. I agree, first of all, AI existed for many years. But what we call AI, do we really have artificial intelligence, I would argue. I really like one of the slides that was presented during the last couple of days where we clearly define what's the difference between artificial intelligence versus machine learning versus deep learning, and then generative AI and large language models is a part of like a type of deep learning. In terms of the purpose, I think current LLMs, especially recent Claude 3, Gemini, GPT-4, they have a purpose to appeal to our perspectives and perceptions. There was a reinforcement learning function that was trained on top of the language model after the language model was trained, right? And I think OpenAI did a brilliant social experiment by opening the system to all over the world and getting our votes, what's good, what resonates well with us, people from different cultures, different backgrounds, and that's why it was a good success. But whether it can be directly applied to education, I would definitely argue. But if we kind of step up from these language models to other types of, I don't want to call it AI, learning systems, right? Artificially learning systems. I would say that there is a lot of analytics that has been developed that is already, it won't have impact, it is already having impact on education. And one example can be, if we're talking about the students, personalized learning, where there are predictive algorithms that could be used, and there are machine learning and deep learning algorithms that can anticipate student answers, and they can course correct the student, right, and develop this personalized learning. In addition to that, for the teachers, content generation, for example, language models can generate text-based content, but not like other type of multimodal content. In addition to that, the systems that are already being developed that can fill the gaps. Every period of time, we update curriculum, and then these updates can be done automatically. So this is already happening. And for example, like virtual reality is another type of technology that is already like showing a lot of impact. So I will probably stop here, but I just wanted to follow up that we already live in this era where algorithms and automation, right now we call AI, but it's a very big term, right? So I want us to step back and talk about specific types of algorithms that we use.
Yeah, I can maybe follow up with sort of a different tack. I think that what you guys have said is very interesting from the perspective of how AI can have an impact, not only in education society, but also in education. And I think it's a hugely positive thing, so I should put my thoughts ahead of me and say, I think AI has great potential, it can do really good things, and I'm really happy that it's happening. But what I have a great fear of, and I think is something that we somehow need to find a solution to, is how AI impacts what I think is really one of the weakest links in education, which is basically the teacher. Teachers are left hanging in a world of AI. We don't have yet the pedagogy to support it, but it's already being thrust upon them. We don't have the mechanisms for teachers to be able to know how to use AI to improve whatever it is they do, or to make their time more effective for those students that they are serving. So it seems to me that by having this advent of AI thrown upon the education system, as it has been sort of thrown upon society in a way, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, that we do expose teachers to something that they just can't manage on their own individual level. And we don't yet have any mechanisms in government, in policy, in pedagogy. We don't really have anything to support those teachers in education, the education space. So in a way, we are, again, putting on one of the weakest links in the system the most pressure. And that to me sounds like something that is very scary and that preoccupies me in the sense of how does AI affect education. There's huge potential for many things. There's potential for personalized learning, which was mentioned, for improving content delivery, for improving even assessment maybe.
Yep.
That's sort of debatable, but okay, also assessment. But how all this has to be done in a way that makes sense and the teachers can actually take advantage of to become better teachers is something that I don't really see anywhere. And it sort of worries me a lot. So just throw that on
So
the table.
do you think
see
that
if it
it's the
sticks.
main change that we have to do to prepare the...
I think so, yeah. I
Yeah.
think it is the main change. It's the main thing that we need to focus on. And I'm not saying the others are not important, because we need to have good policy. We've seen, European laws passed around policy as well. So there's a lot of good things that need to happen. But I think how we support the teachers in making these changes is the key. Is really the key thing that that personally worries me, because I don't see how it gets resolved very quickly.
Do you agree?
Let's disagree a bit,
Yeah.
because otherwise this is very
It gets boring. It gets boring.
Very boring. I mean, Svitlana, you said something that struck me. You said OpenAI did something very good to open the system to the world. Okay.
For them, really good for
Yeah,
them.
yeah, it was good for them, for the world to
Yeah.
be seen.
Yep.
So yesterday there was the last step of the European regulation on AI. I mean, it was passed at the Parliament in June, but now it's up to the states to approve. So the law will be, has to be accepted by the different state members. The law says that when you interact with a system that is an AI system, the system has to identify itself as an AI system, okay? And this is clear. All these systems like the ChatGPT and the others, when you interact with them, they say, oh, I'm an AI system, I cannot, reason, I cannot do this and that. That's fine. But of course, the law stops there. What happens if I take some content generated by such a system, I remove the bit on I am an AI system and I pretend that that is my own work. I mean, that's one of the worries that many teachers have and bad dreams about, okay? Actually, I should tell you that there was, today I received a research publication by a number of people with the first line in the introduction, of course, I can rewrite the introduction for you, semicolon, and then the continuation. So there are people that are not very cautious in what they do with the content. So what the academics are asking for, and there is, I think, a growing demand on that respect, is that companies should not be allowed to put on the hands of the public a generative AI system unless they provide a free of charge system that can detect whether an output of such a system is generated by the system or not. So it's going one step beyond what the European Union said in the law. So OpenAI should bring, the OpenAI checker, in which you put a text of one of your students, and then you can say,
It's a
or you
massive
can check, that has been generated by me, okay? So this is what most researchers in the world are kind of asking for. This is technically doable. There was recently a paper by the University of Berkeley in which you can use kind of the same as of watermarks that you have. You can do that for text, but for images, for anything that you generate. So I think they did it on purpose because they wanted to force the rest of the companies to get into an arms race, which we are in now. These systems have problems. They don't have of course, consciousness, but they have very limited reasoning capabilities. They are not aware of what they are doing. And the researchers are trying to fix some of these things, but many people say some of these problems are not fixable because of the very same nature of what a large language model is. You cannot fix it. Now, the promoters of deep learning, which are, LeCun, Bengio, and Hinton, in different ways, they have been expressing themselves, like saying, look, we need to make clear the idea that this part of language interaction is very good, is excellent, but we need to combine it with a situation model, with some reasoning capabilities, with other elements that reminds the old-fashioned cognitive architectures. So we need to combine language with other capabilities. And this is probably some of the future that the research will go, in which interaction will happen at this linguistic level. And I think this is, for me, you talk about communication. The major revolution is that we're going to change the way we interact with computers. Mm-hmm. We have been interacting with computers with a keyboard, a mouse, an unfoldable menu, windows there. This is the same for the last 30 years. We have not changed the way we interact. And now we have the possibility for everybody to interact with the computer in a totally different way. Already these systems, these assistants that you have in your pocket, that you talk to them, they plan things. These things will be, in the next few years, something we will have. For teachers, sorry, I stopped. But for teachers,
yeah.
So there are some efforts made. Of course, OpenAI already have their guidelines for teachers. And WOC, I was talking to someone from the Open University in Catalonia, has their some guidelines. The Ministry of Education in Catalonia created recently guidelines about that. So it's true, things are going very fast, but the teachers have already a number of resources they can start consulting to see what are the available tools, how can they use them in the classroom. So there is some accompaniment of the teachers. So they are not left out in the cold alone. Okay.
We can agree to disagree.
Okay, very good. Very good.
Axel, do you agree or disagree?
On what?
What is the main change that we have to do with all that? If it's teaching the professors? Or
Yes, yes, I think, of course, teachers are the main part of the chain in education, and I go back to the pedagogical side. I think that some things are not clear right now, and there needs to be some clarification on some issues to help teachers to give some use to the new technology, but stop confusing them. For example, one thing that I'm struck with, and I see it every day at my university and elsewhere, the saying that goes that if you assess your students, you evaluate your students, and a machine can pass the test, then that's no good knowledge you're giving to them.
Yeah.
You know, that's fake. That's not the way to think. And that's an old way of thinking technology. It's like thinking technology is always behind us because we are humans, we are better. So if the machine can do it, it's because that's not worthy. Well, that game has changed. The machine can do many human things and better than us. And that doesn't mean that we should stop teaching those things. A teacher can create a great exam and the machine can pass it better than students. That doesn't mean that the exam is good. But there's a new problem. The problem is that students can copy for the exam. So, and copying, faking your knowledge, it's easier than ever before. Always happened. It's a problem that goes along with the educational system since it was created. But now it has gone to another stage in which it can be done so easily. So we have to rethink our evaluations and assessments, because probably we should have a plan B to assess not in the best way we thought we had, because, for example, if you go into a presential, I don't know the word in English, presencial, you know, face-to-face, thank you. Face-to-face examination, because you want to make sure that your students don't cheat, you lose many things of a non-face-to-face examination, in which students go through the material, they have time to think, redo, work together, as we do in real life. So you lose many things, and there's a new risk. But I think that these things, these new challenges, have to be confronted in a very honest way, and with pedagogical discussions in the middle, and not to make teachers think that they have to invent a better way to assess knowledge and be even beyond the machine when probably the problem is different. You know?
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to interject because, and when I said we agree to disagree, I don't disagree with anything you said. So I think everything you said
That's a pity.
is correct. I only disagree with the conclusion.
Okay.
So it's funny how the human mind can see the same things, agree on them, and have different ideas. No, but this is very interesting because my whole point about this is that teachers are worried about many things, such as copying or plagiarism or whatever. They're worried about losing control of their students or being able to properly evaluate them, work with them, and ultimately make them better people. But this is part of the problem. They're worried about things that they shouldn't be worried about. What they should be worried about is and what they should be doing is not doing the old things with AI. It's doing new things with AI. That's what they should be having time to do. Different things that AI can allow you to do as a teacher that make education better and make your students better people in the end and have better outcomes. But the problem right now is that AI has been thrust upon education, and I agree, there are guidelines and there are many things, but the majority of the teachers don't even have time to read guidelines sent from the government. They don't.
12 pages, come on.
Yeah, but that's how it is. I mean, they've just received a whole bunch of trainings on other things, but anyway, let's not. I do agree, there are guidelines, there are things, so I'm not going to disagree
Can
with
you
that.
explain some examples of this AI innovative initiative?
Oh, I don't really know, but I'm sure there are. I mean, I've heard presentations from some of the top gurus like Salman Khan, who's from the Khan Academy, and they're proposing a whole bunch of new ideas about what you can do with AI. I'm sure there are really good examples there about some of these things that teachers could actually take on board and use in their pedagogy and in their education. But unfortunately, right now, I think they don't have time for all this because they're worried about, are they going to be copying in my exams, or are they doing this, and how do I manage AI, how do I keep it out of my classroom? So I think that's sort of the whole debate there is now, and unfortunately, we're not getting into situations that could be profoundly impactful and very positive for education because of that. I'm sorry, I just wanted to highlight that.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
But the Khan Academy examples, I mean, they already showing that there is big impact in the classroom. But what I would like to follow up on what you said in terms of the change. So I think definitely AI literacy is a must. But AI literacy for both, for the teachers and for the students, right? Because the students also can't blindly trust what ChatGPT is telling them, right? And the same as teachers. If I'm not an expert in anthropology and I ask ChatGPT to generate something for my anthropology class, I have to be very careful, right? So that's for both, not only the teachers. In general, you said the weak chain, right? The weak component. I think in general, the human, and that's following up on your concept, whether who is first, human first versus technology first. I say humans are good at specific things, and technology, AI especially, algorithms are better at other things. There is no way I can read terabytes of data and summarize it. In order for me to be as smart as ChatGPT, let's not even go into GPT-4, I have to be reading for 100 years, 24 hours a day. I can't live this many years, right? So there is no way a human can summarize and understand and extract insights from large amounts of data, right? AI is really good, algorithms machine learning, deep learning. But humans can reason. Humans understand the consequences of their actions, which AI doesn't right now, doesn't have any consciousness, right? So we have to make sure that we have this symbiosis, and in other words, it's called augmentation, where algorithms is augmenting the human in a very, by the way, transparent way. Another thing, in addition to literacy, should be transparency. We don't really know how these algorithms work, right? I mean, as algorithm developers, we understand what we develop, but when we read OpenAI paper, what do they put in the paper, whether they say that they trained it on the data they say they trained it. And by the way, Stanford recently did the Transparency Index. They did a study where they looked into specifically large language models and how these models were trained. And I think the largest transparency between 0 and 100 was 40, right? So we basically have like we understand up to 40% the transparency, and this is the highest, right? So I will stop here, but I think like everything that was said here,
No,
like
go on, please, with this transparency.
right? Like this is nuts. Like what we all use in our everyday life, right? And it's 40% transparent. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will try and disagree with myself.
Okay. That's new.
Sure.
That's new.
No, a few things. I mean, machines, there was this idea that machines do things better than us. Of course. I mean, this has happened for the last 5,000 years, I would say. I mean, we build the pyramids using machines. So the only thing, and for instance, and there are sometimes things that strike. Finland decided a few years back, not many years back, to stop teaching handwriting. So move into typewriting, but not handwriting. Reflect about that. How many teenagers really write using a pen, like I'm doing? I'm an old guy. So maybe you need to teach them to write with 2 fingers, something I could never manage. So these are the things that technology is bringing, and the way we need to adapt into the new possibilities of technology. Of course, a few centuries back, you would not have even this technology. Okay, so technology is mediating what we do all the time. The only thing we humans need to be very clear about is that we should retain those jobs that we like to do. So if there is a job I don't like to do, give it to the machines. Bloody hell, I don't want to do that. Okay, that's fine. But if you want to do something normally related to creativity, and then retain that. Of course, maybe a machine will be able to do it, but I don't care. I want to do it, okay? So I think this is my reflection with respect to the automation, that it seems is unstoppable. Yeah, it will be stoppable. It will be stoppable. We will stop it at that frontier, I think. In terms of evaluation, of course, we need to change the way we evaluate. We have been doing that since, in 1920, everything was about memory. And now nobody checks memory with the students. So things change. The introduction of ChatGPT was not such a drama in Italy, because in Italy they use a lot of oral exams. So they put the student in front of a teacher and they talk. Okay. Maybe in the future, when they will have an implant in their brains, that will not work anymore. But for the time being, that is a way. Or instead of asking about the knowledge, is asking them to apply the knowledge to something practical and to see whether they know how to use the thing. So these 2 reflections with respect to what you mentioned. The thing I will disagree with me is that we have been saying here, AI is very good for education. Are we sure about that? Do we have enough scientific evidence about that? I'm not sure.
Not yet.
I don't think we have enough scientific evidence. We have partial scientific evidence about the introduction of techniques and the improvement that they can bring, but we need much more. And I think we need to make all the teachers somehow researchers. This is something, I was in a meeting with the Minister of Education here. I said, you should take in every school, in every high school, 1, 2 teachers, make them researchers. Make them run experiments on classrooms, hand in hand with researchers on education, researchers on AI and education, and pass the experiments and collect data. And let's see if we collect scientific evidence about the use of these tools before we move forward. So I think sometimes we say very clearly, yes, AI is fantastic, but I think we still lack some scientific evidence about it.
So this is the future that you see?
This is the future, yes. I think transforming teachers into researchers, I think that's the gigantic step that we will do, which is what happened in health. In hospitals, doctors that are treating patients, in many occasions they become researchers of a program by a pharmaceutical industry or by a university, and they are collecting data all the time to try and see if a particular treatment works well, doesn't work well with the control groups. They are completely used to this terminology and to participate in these experiments. Teachers should be like doctors in that respect. I think that's the future. That should be the future.
Do you think, Axel? What is your vision about the
I
future?
think that there are many confusions there. I'm sorry. But there are many different things. First of all, teaching is not this a hard science thing. And we know that teachers do many interpersonal things that are not going to be the same exactly in another laboratory. So, of course, we need research, probably not in that way. It's not very effective, I think. We can do trials in some schools. We don't need every school researching at the same time. But, of course, I would like teachers to think as a scientific does. That's different than being a researcher. I think that we need more scientific reasoning in teacher education as a way of learning to rethink and have doubts and hypotheses and test hypotheses as a scientist does. And I think that's part of the challenge we have in teacher education and building a profession. I agree with you in that sense that we need teachers to act as professionals who know something different than the rest of the society, that are specialized agents, and they are very valued as such. And I think that's a key challenge. We can see well, now it ran down, the case of Finland. It's not going so well in PISA as it did, so we should stop talking about Finland. But anyway, the idea of making the teaching profession the most valued in society as it is in Finland, I think applies, even if it doesn't go very well in PISA.
And your vision, Albert?
Wow, I don't really have a vision. I wish I did. I'm sorry. But so I don't know. I think if with regards to how AI is impacting and should impact education, I mean, I guess the dream that we probably would all share pretty much is that somehow it would enable teachers and the education system to better address the needs of every individual student and empower those students to become better learners, better lifelong learners, and empower them to become better individuals, more active, more critical, as you said before, within society. And ultimately, what school and education is supposed to do is allow individuals to shape society in a positive way. So AI should be this tool that enables us to maybe eliminate some barriers, but also incorporate new things that allow us to be more mindful of what each and every student needs. So personalized learning, but in a much more augmented way, in a much different way that allows us to interface with the students in a way that provides them with better outcomes, but also with better, I think, a critical impact on society. That would be my sort of way of looking at it. And unfortunately, I think, as I said before, I think right now, it's sort of, and Carlos, I think, was saying that as well, we don't know if that can be done or not. Because it sounds like maybe there is an opportunity, but it also sounds like there's many other negatives that we don't know about and we're not sure. So I guess we do need the research, we need the opportunities to test things out. So, again, more resources as well, I guess. But anyways, so the dream would be, how can we get to that point?
I think that we are involved in the biggest trial in the world right now with AI, that it's the use of the ChatGPT and others. So we will see the results. So what do you think that will be the next?
I absolutely agree with you, and I think very soon we will have our own personal agents that are helping us in our work tasks, tasks for the teachers and tasks for the students. And we just have to embrace it and basically think about us as hybrids that are augmented by technology, and then imagine, like, Carlos, you said about the teaming, right? So think about it as like we, humans that are augmented with as AI in this case, we interacting, and we interact as a team, and there is collective intelligence that is emerging through this interaction. And it will be a hybrid system, because there will still be humans that are less dependent on AI. There will be completely, maybe even autonomous systems that are completely powered by algorithms, and there will be this hybrid of like human and AI, right? And the way that we interact will be different. We were not that scared of Google, right? It's a way to get knowledge and extract information. To me, language models is just a better, more efficient way to do it, because unlike Google, the brain behind is different, it's smarter. But we survived, right? Like, I mean, and we probably, there have been studies on how search engines impact the way that we learn and get knowledge, right? But I absolutely agree with you that there are more studies needed, and there have been a few papers recently in Science that look into the productivity improvement when we use ChatGPT, but not for education. And absolutely, it's critical. We have to know how to measure it properly and do empirical studies, and that's the future that I think is coming very soon.
Okay. I'm seeing if anybody in the audience wants to ask some of you any questions. That's, yeah.
My name is Axel from Canada. The way that I see education is educating mind is as important as educating heart. So,
Here's a mic.
so my value is educating mind. Does it work?
You need to switch it on, I think.
Not working. This. This.
No battery?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So educating mind is as important as educating heart. My question is that while we are trying to create critical thinkers, we also think to create good citizen with good impact in the world. So what does good education mean to you, and how AI can help to get to that good education, or can be a barrier to get there?
What a question.
So, well,
Axel, I think.
Well, I think that first that we have new challenges ahead of us. We cannot distinguish what is real and what is artificial as we had used to. We never did perfectly, of course. Immanuel Kant told us that many centuries ago, but we cannot do it anymore with an image, with a video, and it will go on. And we have to train the human mind to doubt all the time. That's a new configuration. It's not enough passing an exam about critical thinking. It's an experience. You have to go through a portal. You have to become someone else. You have to be able to be very fragile, to doubt, to make questions. This is a whole personality thing, and we are seeing the path to the other way. We are seeing more and more polarization and dogmas and in psychology there's a school of thought that says that humans want to confirm what they know. This is a mindset. So it's very deep. And the school is very weak. So the school has to put another mission in a very tired body, a very old apparatus, and it has to do a very more complex and difficult job. So we need new schools in a way, and as soon as possible.
Would you like to add something?
Well, I fully agree. Critical thinking, to me, good education is education in critical thinking. So I will not repeat what you said. I would add one thing. We, as teachers, I think we have the obligation to explain our students what are their digital rights. So we need to know what are the digital rights of citizens, and we need to explain that. For instance, according to the European law, we have the right to explanation. Okay. So this is something that any system that takes decisions or that will affect the lives of our students, they have to know that they have the right to ask why. And we cannot, as educators or teachers, give our back to those elements in our teaching. We need to know about AI, we need to know about digital technologies so that we can teach our students on that line of thought.
Yeah, I just add one small thing to that, which is basically, and going back to your heart question, teachers should be role models for our students. In some cases, many cases they are, others aren't, or I don't know what happens in all the classrooms. But they should be role models. And one of the issues I think that's happening as well nowadays is that they're very hard pressed to be role models because teachers don't have this capacity or this feeling that they are empowered to be role models. They're given sometimes impossible tasks. And obviously this is very different when you go down in different levels of education. If you go into university, slightly different than compulsory education, different to primary education, so there's different areas here. But I think there's, I can't remember where this study is from, but basically what counts most towards student outcomes is first your socioeconomic background, and second is the teachers you've had. So, you know, empowering teachers to be role models goes back to this question. It's not only the mind, it's the heart, it's the emotion, it's that part of teaching that is sometimes forgotten in the curriculums as well. So I think that needs also a lot of thought. And AI, again, trying to stick things together, AI could have some positive impact here because it could enable teachers to have more time to dedicate to this type of subjects versus purely the learning and the knowledge. So that could be an option there.
Yeah, one tiny thing. Coral Regi is not here? No. Okay, so I can plagiarize her.
And
you
don't need AI.
No. So she says one thing that I think is striking because we should not have a society in which the rich get the human teachers and the poor get the AIs.
Yeah.
So, and that goes in this part of the empathy and the role model that a human being represents to another one, that an AI will never be, at least for the time being, for everybody here being alive, okay? So I think we have to also be careful not to open a new digital divide between the rich and the poor by giving the AIs to the poor.
Absolutely. I think this is something that we discussed recently because we've done a lot of this. We give technology to the poor families and then say it's their responsibility to get educated.
Yes.
You know, so
you're idiots. We gave you the
tablet.
technology. I mean, come on.
It's your fault.
Your fault.
More questions? Yeah. Yeah.
I would like to know your opinion about my main concern now. I agree, we have already some very good scientific communications from Harvard, Stanford, where the use of AI, generative AI, ChatGPT and so on, they are producing better results in the workplace, effectiveness, efficiency, and also they are even much happier, the professionals using AI, because they are much more focused on cognitive, teamwork, and so on. And it is true that we don't have studies in the educational sector about the impact of AI. However, the problem is that when we have these results, maybe the society is going to be so transformed because of AI that these results are not going to be relevant because these results are going to be based on what we are expecting now from our students. And when we have the results, the tasks are going to be so transformed because of AI that maybe we have to start over evaluating new possibilities on how, or the impact. So it's moving so fast because in the context of work and the tasks we do in companies, we can test it, and we have already tested, and it is providing very good results, the use of AI. But in education, we need a longer period in order to test what are going to be the results of that. But my main concern is that maybe we are not going to have this chance.
Who wants to answer? Svitlana.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you're right. The pace is impossible to
timing. I mean, some medical treatments need 10 years analysis in hospitals with patients to see whether they are effective or not. I mean, you're right. The law, the European law, took 4 years between 2019. I mean, when it started, there was this trustworthy AI principles. I mean, generative AI was not on the discussion, on the table. So when it appeared in November 2022, I mean, the legislators in the European Parliament said, oh my goodness, we have the law is already cooked and we have this problem now. Yeah. So you have to react very quickly. But that's the reason why collecting data, getting into the digital world is so important, because if we don't do that in our schools to see what is going on with technology, then we are not going to give the proper education to our kids. I mean, they are going to pick up the technology from outside without the filter of the education system. So it is an urgent thing for educators to get themselves educated in technology. I think there is no alternative.
I think there's also, we're lacking a sense of urgency. In other words, students are not sick. They're not dying of a tumor. They don't need testing. And most families will tell you this. They don't want testing done with their children. So it's very difficult to go into a school and say, oh, we're going to do testing in this school. No, it's an uproar. The school revolts and there's no testing because the families all complain. So, that's part of the issue as well. How do we install a sense of urgency in society and in the families and say, if we don't do this, we're going to fall back in education, and we're not going to be learning the things we need to learn about how we have to change the system to make it useful, but not only to get jobs, which is a little bit what you were talking about, but also to be able to use and know and understand what's happening in society, and for those children and students who are in the system to be able to be better citizens as well. So there's that sense of urgency that we don't have, or maybe somebody has it, but
it's
not politicians.
It's a pity, but we have to end. We have to end the roundtable because it's 7:10. Yeah. So thank you very much to the 4 professionals that we had here, because I think that they are humans speaking about AI, so that's the good thing.
For now.
So,
Are you sure?
yeah. So thank you very much for being here.